Alright everybody, we're back on the CX500 Scrambler build, and right now it is time to start working on the front end. So what I want to do is start mocking up a headlight, the turn signals, and the front fender. So what I'm using for a headlight is going to be this Emgo 5 3/4, or actually, well, it's an Emgo kind of Bates style, and I've used these a ton. They're just a good looking simple light. They're inexpensive, and this one I'm using a bottom mount style on versus a side because I want to try to integrate a nice trick mount. I've already fabricated a ring to kind of go for maybe I don't know, maybe like some kind of desert sled Dakar thing. It has kind of a both new school and old school look to it. So I don't know, gonna play around with that. And then for a front fender, you'll have to see because I left it at the warehouse like an idiot. So anyway, let's get going. So like I said, I've used these lights a bunch. They're just simple and good. So grab this one from Dime City Cycles. Ordered from them a lot as well. So anyway, play around with this thing. It does have a little high beam indicator on the top. I don't know, I'm kind of 50-50 on that. I kind of wish it would just be flush because we're going to have an indicator on the dash. Now for the actual headlight mount, what I want to do is, instead of having anything attached to the forks, I want to go with using these mounts here. So there's these tabs on the forks. Those were their factory and they had a little bushing in them. So I want to use some 5/16 round bar and kind of like build a little cage, kind of like a factory FT500. And I will have to just figure out as I go. There's no real plans to this, so it's just going to evolve as we go. But I'm thinking start with a little standoff here, maybe a flat plate here, bolt the headlight to that, and then, I don't know, just start creating. Well, in the midst of mocking everything up, I decided to go ahead and pull the pad off the bar here. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the gauge as well. So this is an Acewell MD052. I've never used this, but it's compact, and going back and forth with the customer, that's what we landed on. So it should look good, should function well. But that is going to mount, I think, right in between here. So it should look pretty good. It should be a pretty simple bracket actually to make. And then that'll help tie into the actual headlight mount down below, and I'll show you how we do that here soon. Alright, so let me see if I can explain what I'm planning here. we have obviously the lower tab here, and you can see I have just the bolt set inside this. From the get-go, I meant to just install some 5/16 rod. So take that out carefully. So that will hopefully fit in there like that. You can kind of see how it's guided there. And then I have made a couple little tabs to go with the upper gauge mount. And I'm thinking, whenever it's clocked, you know, just kind of taper it and weld it to the inside tab on this. And then, you know, one on either side. This is also going to be welded right here. And this section will unbolt, and then I can kind of swing it forward and hopefully up. That'll be the goal. If not, worst case scenario, you know, unbolt the light or something like that. But yeah, hopefully I can make that to where I can slide it out and we can get it up. So we'll do that, and then from there I can move on to the gauge mount. But before I do that, I'll probably have to actually pull the whole front end apart and knock off this, I think that was the steering, either the steering lock for the CX500, yeah, probably for the CX500, the ignition switch would normally lock it there, so probably knock that off the frame, and then detab the, this was the steering lock for the FT500, so knock that off as well, because I got to build all new stuff. Guess I could just put a sharper angle on that. I was thinking I was going to end up doing it on the outside like that, but that doesn't even make sense now, does it? Yeah, we'll just put a tighter bend in that, and then this can probably just line up right on the back side of this, or really close to it. I think that'll work. Alright, here's where we're at. I have both of these rods marked height-wise where I want them to stand down here. And then I put a slight bend in it on this side. And then I have matched that bend with the tab here. So assuming just a little trimming off the top of that to allow a little bit more clearance, I should be able to just weld that to it. So now what I have to do is just duplicate the bend in this bracket on the other one along with the bend in the rod on the other side. So then I can trim it. Start tacking it up. All right, let's see if I can get this thing tacked up square. Just need one tack. Okay. Tack. All right, now we have just this side tacked. The challenge is going to be to see if we can actually remove this. So that is what I need to find out before going any further. I think it'll be slightly difficult, but I think it's doable. Plus, I can trim a little bit off the bottom if I wish. I think this gets us in the ballpark here. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and tack the other side and keep moving. Thoughts and prayers to the rubber bushings I'm welding on top of. Alright. Tacked up. Well, as you can see, I have the whole front end off of this thing now. I need to go ahead and remove this upper steering lock tab for the CX500, and then I need to remove the lower steering lock tab for the FT500. So I'm going to go ahead and clean these things up, get this down to bare metal, and then I can make a fender mount from it whenever we get to that point. But this will allow me to go ahead and mount the gauge as close as I can here, and we can have more room to work around. So let's get to it. Alright, it is time to work on mounting this gauge. So, again, this is an Acewell. Pretty compact. Wow, this does not go as planned. Get out of there! Get out of there! Okay. So this has a threaded side here. The adapter here is in the box, but it also has a way of mounting it via these studs. But I'm going to use the side profile here because that's just a lot cleaner. I can mount it on this rubber seal. So I want to make an aluminum plate. And we're going to mount this about right here. That's the goal. So you can see I can put it right on top of this mount that I also tied in the headlight mount for. And we'll have room. So just got to figure out kind of the angle at which I want to clock it, how tight I want to make it, and then we'll get to making a bracket. Alright, let's make this template for the gauge mount. So utilize the box because it already has the perfect size hole cut out. Just going to rough this in. I know I needed about 4.5 wide, so we're at like a little over 4.25, which is fine. Just cut along the line there, 3.5 deep. And we can shape this as we need, but this is going to be to mark out the hole location, and then, you know, we'll have to possibly bend it. You might not actually have to, but we'll see what it looks like when we get it up there. Alright, well, we've parked you right where about the rider's head would be, and you can see the gauge from a good perspective here, so there's not going to be anything in the way. And then now, being that that is mounted up where we like it, I can work on this headlight ring. Now, I took some time to make this with my bender. Show some footage here of the struggle bus that was bending this in a full circle. So bent this thing up, and it is made from 5/8 inch tube, and it fits really nicely around the headlight about like that. And I've just really wanted to use something like this, so this is going to look cool. And then I have another piece that's going to go on after this. So what I'm going to do for this is tie into the stock lower bolt here for the headlight, run two little tabs forward, and then that's just going to weld straight to that ring, about like that. So just weld straight to that, and that way the headlight and the ring have the same pivot point. So if I need to angle it, it's just going to be in the same plane. It's not going to interfere. And it'll just make everything easier down the road. All right, time to get this ring on here. I have my brackets made and I've just been kind of dialing those in to make it to where everything is even as far as setting it on here, that it's clocked this way correctly and it's like side to side equal. So trying to keep it as square as possible. So time to hold this thing in place, probably use some zip ties, bubble gum, stand on one foot, bite my tongue the right way, and hope that I just get this thing tacked on here straight. It's gonna be a little bit tricky, so I'm gonna set the camera up and you guys can laugh at my pain. 2 pieces of tape. I'll take it. That's not bad. Carefully. Let's see what we go. Left-handed. Quietly we sneak over to this side. Alright, so I have the Flyscreen brackets tacked up, and I hope they're going to be in the place that I need them to be. Aluminum is so hard for me to work with because due to the high amperage, I can't just like do a precision tack near something that's, not metal because it'll just melt. So I have to have everything like off the bike, and there's nothing here that's easy to just position in a square manner. So everything is just like kind of set in place, but should be close. Whenever it cools off here in a minute, I'll get it back on the bike and we'll see how close we are. I think I did something wrong because it looks square on here. I had to have done something wrong. There's no way it would be square. From side profile, same gap. Front to back, like this way, everything looks the same. From the rider's perspective, seems to look the same. I'm sure some people are going to be like, "Oh, that's really far off," and I don't know how to make anything, and I'm an idiot. But looks pretty good to me. Obviously, it's not going to look that good now because you still have the plastic on this thing, but I can picture it now. I think it's going to look awesome. So I'm going to pull this back off, disassemble it, and then fully weld it, and we'll be done with this. And here's our bracket. Not my best aluminum welds, but whatever. They're not my worst. They are structurally sound. So, kind of a neat little piece. Of course, mounts in here. Yep. All right, with everything done up top, it's time to talk about fenders. And no, we're not talking about Telecasters. We're talking about plastic Tonka toy fenders. No. So half you guys are going to love this thing, half you guys are going to hate it. And before we go any further, no, it's not going to stay yellow, but it comes yellow because it's from a Suzuki. It's actually from a Suzuki RM80. And I got this off DC Plastics, and I really, really like the shape. Now there is a method behind the madness on why it shows this. So we need a functional fender on this thing, obviously, but a lot of the, say, plastic fenders and stuff like that you see might be built for like a 23-inch wheel or 21, and they're gigantic. So the RM80 of that era had, I think, a 19-inch wheel, so this looks proportional along the rest of the bike. I don't know if that's going to do it any justice, but I really think this is going to be perfect on here. So what I have to do is start making some tabs to come off of this, and then we'll have a front, you know, like a couple bolts in the front, same thing in the rear. And then what I'll probably do on top of this is I'll make like an aluminum plate to go maybe underneath, and then we'll try to just bolt through there, and then just have a better clamping surface for the fender, something a little bit more rigid. One thing I'm debating on is where the stem comes down and actually protrudes down a little bit. That kind of forces the fender to be down a little bit lower, and I know I'm splitting hairs here, but I might go ahead and just cut a hole in this to raise the fender up as much as possible, but you know, whatever. And then in regards to the radiator, obviously the fender, if you can see, it's going to be in front of the radiator a little bit. So I think what my plan is right now is I'll do maybe like a mesh insert right here. I'll actually cut some reliefs out to allow airflow back behind the radiator. And then, you know, we are going to do the fins on the side and stuff. So I don't foresee this thing having any cooling issues, but, you know, if we can avoid blocking any airflow to the radiator, that's what I want to do. Alright, I think we got the fender kind of mocked up in place using some highly precision engineering. Tape. I don't know, it's on there good enough. I might just leave the tape and not even bother welding it. Seems like it's on there pretty good. I'm going to cross my fingers, tack this in place, and hopefully we make the same mistake I did with the Flyscreen and get it on there square the first time. Alright, now for the front mount, what I did is, you saw I made the plate for underneath, and then I've marked the center of the fender, and I've pre-drilled my front mount hole. That way I can line the fender up center on the bike, and then I know my point to make the mount to. So what I've done, cut a simple little triangle here that's going to give more lateral support. I've given it a bend like that. So the curve like that, that's going to help keep it rigid, and then just bent like a little flat portion at the end. So that's going to obviously go about right there. We will tack it in place and we will be good to go. So actually I can unthread this right now. This one's going to be a lot easier to tack in place. Like that. Okay. Alright. It's really good. I like that. I know I just said that, but we're going to say it again. I'm going to get the welder out and tack this in place. Alright, I know this video is running long at this point, so I'm going to try to wrap it up here. We've completed the fender mount, the headlight ring, the fly screen, and of course the gauge. And off camera I also went ahead and just made a fork brace. So just some 1/4 inch aluminum for that, nice and strong. That'll just help keep the front end a little bit more stable. So, let's see, we got a lot left to do on the bike, but we're knocking stuff out. And now we're going to move our attention back here. I'm going to start working on planning out the electronics. We're going to get the Morty unit in this and lay all of that out along with the air filters and probably create some side covers. Beyond that, we need to work on a seat pan for this thing and then start working on the racks in the back, and that's something that's going to be really cool. So that's going to do it. I really love how this thing is taking shape. You guys are hopefully starting to see the vision I have in my head. And when this thing's done, it's going to be really cool and really capable, and I really hope the customer enjoys it, because I'm really geeking out on this thing. So if you haven't seen the last episode, we did I modified these crash bars here, and then before that I modified the tank mounts, and we got this thing relocated. So go ahead and check those out if you haven't seen them. I'm going to link the previous episode here. And go ahead and check out some other stuff on the channel. Follow me on social media and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. You can stay updated on everything I'm doing. So anyway, hope you guys liked the video. Hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.